I never expected to spend my 64th birthday sleeping in what my daughter called a worthless pile of junk. But there I was, fumbling with an old key in the dark while her words still echoed in my head. Dad, you're just a sentimental old man clinging to rusty garage trash. My name is Harold Richardson, and let me tell you how I went from being thrown out of my own home to discovering the biggest surprise of my life. It all started 3 weeks after we buried my wife, Ruth. Cancer took her at 62, and I was still trying to figure out how to live without the woman who'd been my partner for 38 years. The day of the will reading, I sat in attorney Philip Torres's office wearing my best suit, the same one I'd worn to Ruth's funeral, next to my daughter Jessica in her fancy corporate outfit. Jessica's always been ambitious. Marketing director at some big firm downtown, drives a BMW, lives in one of those modern condos with floor-to-ceiling windows. She's 38 now, never married, always too busy climbing the corporate ladder. Sometimes I wonder if Ruth and I pushed her too hard to succeed because somewhere along the way, she forgot how to value anything that couldn't be measured in dollars. Philip cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. Before I begin, I want you both to know that Mrs. Richardson was very specific about these arrangements. The reading went by in a blur, but certain parts hit like a sledgehammer. To my beloved daughter, Jessica Richardson, I leave our family home at 1247 Oak Street and the primary savings account containing $18,000. Then, almost like an afterthought, to my dear husband Harold Richardson, I leave the property at 892 Industrial Road, the garage and all its contents. The garage, after 38 years of marriage, Ruth had left me a garage. Jessica's face went from fake sympathy to barely hidden satisfaction. She squeezed my shoulder a little too hard and said, "Don't worry, Dad. I'll take good care of you." I was too shocked to respond. Why would Ruth do this? Where was I supposed to live? What did this mean? The answers came fast and brutal that same evening. Jessica drove me back to what I thought was still my home, the house Ruth and I had shared for the last 20 years. I'd barely stepped through the front door when Jessica set my suitcase down in the hallway. "Dad, I think it would be best if you found somewhere else to stay tonight." I stared at her, not understanding. "What do you mean?" "The house is mine now. It's in the will." Her voice had that rehearsed quality she used in business meetings. "I'm having my real estate agent come tomorrow to assess the property value, and I need to start making some changes. But where am I supposed to go?" Jessica shrugged. "You could stay with Uncle Larry for a while, or there's always that garage Mom left you." She laughed, and it had a cruel edge I'd never heard before. "Though why she left you, that dump is beyond me." "What are you going to do with it? Start fixing cars at your age?" Something broke inside me then. This was my daughter, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bicycle, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose college tuition I'd worked overtime to pay. "Jessica, this is my home. Your mother and I, it's not your home anymore." She cut me off. "Mom made that perfectly clear. Besides, you're just a sentimental old man clinging to the past. What would you even do with a real inheritance?" Those words hit me like a physical blow. I grabbed my suitcase, took the garage key Philip had given me, and walked out. So there I was at 11 p.m. on my 64th birthday, driving through the industrial district with nowhere else to go. The garage sat on a quiet street between a closed auto parts store and an empty lot minus a brick building with decades of grime coating its walls. From the outside, it looked exactly like what Jessica had called it, a worthless dump. The overhead door was rust-streaked, weeds pushed through cracks in the concrete, and the whole neighborhood smelled of motor oil and old metal. My hands shook as I fumbled with the key in the dark. The side door groaned open on hinges that hadn't been oiled in years, and I clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and stopped me dead in my tracks. This wasn't some abandoned storage space filled with junk. The interior was a temple to automotive perfection. 3 vehicles sat before me, each covered with fitted cloth covers and arranged with precision that spoke of serious care. The concrete floor beneath them was sealed and polished to a mirror finish, and overhead I could see the gleam of professional LED lighting fixtures waiting to be turned on. I stepped forward, drawn by confusion and disbelief. Ruth had never mentioned collecting cars. In 38 years of marriage, there hadn't been a single hint of this interest, investment, or whatever this was. But the engineering side of my brain was already cataloging details. The quality of the floor ceiling, the moisture control systems I could see mounted near the ceiling, the precision spacing that maximized both protection and access. I pulled the first cover away and nearly stumbled backward. A 1964 Aston Martin DB5 in pristine silver sat before me, its wire wheels and chrome bumpers gleaming under my flashlight beam. I ran my fingers along the bonnet, feeling paint so perfect it might have been applied yesterday. The engineering marvel of the twin-cam inline-6 engine bay was visible through the slightly raised hood, and I could see the meticulous attention to detail in every component. "Ruth," I whispered to the silence, "what the hell were you up to?" The second cover revealed a 1956 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, gullwing in deep blue metallic, its distinctive doors creating that unmistakable silhouette. The third was a 1967 Ferrari 275 GTB4 in Rosso Corsa red, the classic Ferrari racing color that made every car enthusiast's heart race. Each vehicle sat on custom car lifts that could raise them for maintenance access, surrounded by tools and equipment that belonged in a professional restoration shop. As a mechanical engineer who'd spent 40 years working with precision machinery, I knew quality when I saw it. These weren't just nice old cars, these were museum-quality treasures representing the pinnacle of automotive engineering from their respective eras. The Aston's sophisticated suspension geometry, the Mercedes' innovative fuel injection system, the Ferrari's race-bred V12 engine, each represented breakthrough technology that had defined automotive excellence. Each car had a small stand beside it holding a leather portfolio filled with documentation. I opened the first one and found maintenance records dating back years, authenticity certificates, and purchase agreements that made my engineering brain spin. The numbers I was seeing couldn't be right. The Aston Martin alone had documentation showing a purchase price of $8 million just 2 years ago, with current market valuations suggesting it was worth even more now. That's when I noticed the envelope taped to the wall beside what looked like a main electrical panel. My name was written on it in Ruth's familiar handwriting. I tore it down and found the light switch, flooding the entire space with bright, even LED illumination that revealed the true scope of what Ruth had created. This wasn't just a garage. It was a professional automotive preservation facility. The walls were lined with specialized tool storage systems that would make any mechanic jealous. Climate control units hummed quietly in the corners, maintaining perfect temperature and humidity levels. A hydraulic lift system was built into the floor, and I could see compressed air lines and electrical outlets positioned at strategic intervals around the work area. In the back corner, a small office area had been constructed with insulated walls and a separate HVAC system. Inside, I found a leather sofa, a mini fridge stocked with water and basic provisions, and even a small bathroom with a shower. Ruth had thought of everything, including the possibility that I might need to stay here temporarily. I sank onto the sofa and opened Ruth's letter with trembling hands. "My dearest Harold, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've discovered what I've been secretly building for your future. First, I need to apologize for the shock you must be feeling. The secrecy wasn't meant to hurt you, but to protect what I was creating. 6 years ago, when the doctors gave me my diagnosis, they said I had maybe 3 years. I beat their timeline by half again, but I knew our time was limited. I needed to ensure you would be secure after I was gone and, more importantly, protected from Jessica's attitudes about money and family responsibility. I've been watching our daughter for years, Harold. The ambitious girl we raised has developed a troubling relationship with money and success. She sees your engineering background as outdated, your practical skills as irrelevant to the modern world. I've heard her on phone calls with friends, dismissing you as just another old guy who doesn't understand how business works today. I know you're wondering about the will, about why I left our home to Jessica instead of you. This decision caused me more sleepless nights than my treatments ever did, but I needed to create a situation that would reveal Jessica's true character while protecting you from the consequences of her choices. So I created this inheritance with deliberate purpose. Jessica received what she sees as the valuable portion, the house, the visible assets, the status symbols that matter to her corporate world. But what you're looking at now, my love, is the real wealth. These 3 cars represent the pinnacle of automotive engineering from their respective eras. The Aston Martin DB5 with its advanced aluminum body construction and sophisticated suspension geometry. The Mercedes 300 SL with its innovative direct fuel injection system, the first production car to use that technology. The Ferrari 275 GTB4 with its transaxle layout and independent rear suspension that revolutionized sports car design. I chose these specific vehicles because I knew you'd appreciate not just their monetary value, but their engineering significance. Each represents breakthrough technology that pushed the boundaries of what was possible in automotive design. Together, these cars are worth approximately $3 million based on recent auction results. The documentation will confirm their authenticity and provenance, and you'll find contact information for George Coleman, the specialist dealer who helped me acquire them over the past 5 years. He can assist with whatever you decide to do with them. But Harold, the cars are just the beginning. In the safe behind our wedding photo, you remember, the one from our honeymoon in Niagara Falls, combination 052785, our anniversary date, you'll find documentation for several investment properties I purchased. Rental buildings in stable markets that will provide steady income. I also established investment accounts that have been growing quietly while I was sick. The combination of all these assets should ensure you never have to depend on anyone's charity or goodwill, including Jessica's. I had to stop reading. The safe was exactly where Ruth described, hidden behind a framed photo of us as newlyweds, looking impossibly young and optimistic. My hands shook as I entered our anniversary date, May 27th, 1985. The electronic lock clicked open. Inside, I found a portfolio that made my head spin. Decalated financial statements showing ownership of 3 apartment buildings in different states, each generating substantial monthly rental income, conservative stock investments in treasury bonds, money market accounts, real estate investment trusts. The summary page showed a total portfolio value of 8 times and $7 million, separate from the cars. I sank back onto the sofa, staring at numbers that represented more wealth than I'd ever imagined having. Ruth had been fighting cancer and simultaneously building a financial empire designed to protect me from a future she knew would be difficult. I went back to her letter, my vision blurred by tears I didn't try to hide. I know this is overwhelming, and I'm sorry for keeping it secret. At first, it was just a way to channel my anxiety about leaving you alone. But as the portfolio grew, I realized that revealing it too early might put everything at risk if Jessica discovered the extent of these holdings. You're probably wondering why I didn't protect you through conventional means, like joint accounts or simple inheritance splitting. The truth is, I wanted to give Jessica a chance to show her true character. Perhaps faced with her inheritance and responsibility for your welfare, she would become the caring daughter we tried to raise. If she proves herself worthy, if she ensures your comfort and dignity during this transition, then you might choose to share some of this wealth with her. But if she reveals a different nature, if she treats you as a burden or dismisses your needs for her convenience, then this legacy is your protection and your independence. I've always believed character reveals itself most clearly during times of inheritance, both in what we receive and what we think we deserve. Jessica is receiving a test as much as an inheritance. You, my darling, are receiving the means to live exactly as you choose, beholden to no one. I held that letter to my chest and cried like I hadn't since Ruth's funeral. After 38 years of marriage, I thought I knew everything about my wife. Instead, I was discovering the depths of her love and strategic thinking. She'd been fighting cancer while simultaneously orchestrating this elaborate protection plan, all while keeping it secret to shield it from Jessica's potential interference. I spent that first night on the office sofa, and by morning I'd discovered Ruth had prepared for every contingency. The office had a full bathroom with shower, the mini fridge was stocked with basic meals, and there was even a closet with work clothes in my size, Carhartt coveralls, steel-toed boots, and heavy-duty work gloves, all with tags still attached. My practical wife had known I might need more than just shelter here. The morning light streaming through the garage's clerestory windows revealed even more details I'd missed in my emotional state the night before. Ruth had installed a complete automotive workshop that would rival any professional restoration facility. A red snap-on tool chest stood against one wall, its drawers organized with precision instruments for engine work, body restoration, and electrical diagnostics. Torque wrenches hung in graduated sizes, micrometers sat in protective cases, and a complete set of British Whitworth spanners indicated serious attention to the Aston Martin's specific requirements. I ran my hands over the tools, recognizing the quality and thought that had gone into every selection. As an engineer who'd worked with precision machinery for 4 decades, I could appreciate the level of investment this represented. The diagnostic equipment alone, oscilloscopes, multimeters, compression testers, was worth tens of thousands of dollars. A hydraulic engine hoist stood ready in one corner, positioned near an engine stand that could accommodate everything from the Aston's inline 6 to the Ferrari's V12. Ruth had even installed a parts washer and a compressed air system with multiple drops around the workspace. This wasn't just storage for valuable cars, it was a fully functional restoration facility. After a breakfast of granola bars and coffee from the office area, I called George Coleman. He answered on the second ring, his voice carrying a slight British accent that somehow seemed appropriate for someone dealing in classic European automobiles. "Mr. Richardson," he said, "I've been expecting your call first. Please accept my condolences for your loss." Ruth wasn't just a client, she was a friend who shared my passion for automotive excellence. 2 hours later, a distinguished man in his 60s arrived in a well-maintained Jaguar XJ6, understated but appropriate for someone in his profession. George Coleman looked exactly as his voice had suggested. Silver-haired, wearing a tweed jacket with leather patches, carrying a slim leather portfolio. "Mr. Richardson," he said, extending his hand with a firm grip. "A pleasure to meet you, though I wish it were under happier circumstances." As we settled in the office area with coffee from a thermos he'd brought, George helped me understand the scope of what Ruth had accomplished. "Your wife began acquiring these vehicles 5 years ago," he explained. opening his portfolio to reveal detailed documentation. She was extraordinarily methodical in her approach. Each purchase was carefully researched for authenticity, provenance, and investment potential. But more than that, she wanted to understand the engineering significance of each vehicle. But why cars? I asked, still struggling to connect this passion with the wife I thought I'd known completely. Ruth never showed any particular interest in automobiles beyond our regular vehicles. George smiled gently. She explained that to me once. She said cars were tangible, beautiful assets that brought joy simply by existing. Unlike stocks or bonds, they could be appreciated on multiple levels as art, as engineering marvels, as historical artifacts, and as financial investments. But most importantly, she wanted to leave you something you could truly understand and appreciate as a fellow engineer. He opened a technical folder. The DB5, for instance, represents Aston Martin's peak achievement in the 1960s. The aluminum body construction was revolutionary for its time, providing strength while keeping weight down. The independent suspension front and rear was sophisticated beyond most contemporary designs. The inline-six engine with its twin overhead camshafts and hemispherical combustion chambers produced remarkable power for its displacement. I nodded, following his technical description easily. The engineering principles he was describing were exactly the kind of elegant solutions I'd spent my career developing in different industries. The Mercedes 300 SL was even more groundbreaking, George continued. It was the first production car to use direct fuel injection, technology developed from aircraft engines. The space frame construction with those distinctive gull-wing doors wasn't just for show, it was necessary because the frame design made conventional doors impossible. The result was a car that was both incredibly fast and remarkably advanced for 1956. And the Ferrari? The 275 GTB4. Perhaps the most significant of the three from an engineering standpoint. It featured independent rear suspension when most sports cars still used live rear axles. The transaxle layout put the transmission at the back for better weight distribution. The quad-cam V112 engine was essentially a detuned racing motor. It represented everything Ferrari had learned from Formula One racing, adapted for road use. The collection was currently worth $12.3 million based on recent auction results. George explained, but more importantly, the values had been appreciating steadily. These particular models were considered blue-chip investments in the collector car world, and what am I supposed to do with them? I asked, gesturing toward the three silent machines. Whatever you wish, Mr. Richardson, you could sell them individually or as a collection. You could maintain them as investments while enjoying them occasionally. You could even drive them regularly, though that would affect their value somewhat. He paused, studying me carefully. There's no rush to decide. Ruth arranged for storage and maintenance for the next 5 years. She understood this would be a significant adjustment. After George left, promising to return whenever I needed guidance, I sat in the quiet garage contemplating my situation. Less than 24 hours ago, I'd believed myself to be essentially homeless, cast out by my daughter and mysteriously shortchanged by my wife's will. Now I was discovering I was a wealthy man with options I'd never imagined. But I still had nowhere to live except this peculiar garage with its hidden amenities. That's when I remembered Ruth mentioning other properties in her letter. I pulled out the portfolio from the safe and found what I was looking for, a deed to a cottage in Carmel, a coastal town we'd visited several times and always loved. According to the paperwork, Ruth had purchased it 3 years ago, fully furnished and ready for occupancy. The photos showed a charming stone cottage with a garden and partial ocean views. I had a real home waiting for me, not just this garage sanctuary. As the day wore on, my phone remained silent. No call from Jessica asking how I was managing, where I'd spent the night, or whether I needed anything. Just silence from the daughter who now owned the house I'd called home for 20 years. That evening, my phone finally rang. Jessica's number flashed on the screen. "Dad, where are you? Uncle Larry said you haven't contacted him." "I'm fine, Jessica," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "I found somewhere to stay." "Well, I need you to come get the rest of your stuff from the house. The real estate agent is coming tomorrow morning for professional staging photos, and they need everything cleared out." No apology. No acknowledgement of throwing me out on my birthday. No inquiry about where I'd spent the night after she'd made me homeless. Just more demands for her convenience. "I see. And when would be convenient for you?" "Tomorrow before 9. I have client presentations all day." I thought about the documents spread before me, proof of Ruth's careful planning and profound love. I thought about the daughter who could so casually discard her father when he became inconvenient. "I'll be there," I said. The next morning, I arrived at 1247 Oak Street at 8:45, having dressed carefully in one of the work shirts from the garage office. Jessica opened the door with her phone pressed to her ear, barely glancing up as I entered what had been my home for 20 years. The space already felt different, emptier, colder somehow. Several of Ruth's decorative pieces were missing, and the family photos that had lined the hallway had been removed, leaving ghostly rectangular marks on the paint. Finally, Jessica said, ending her call, "I've boxed up most of your old stuff. The staging team will be here at 9:30, so we need to be efficient." "Good morning to you too, Jessica," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. "I see you've started redecorating." She shrugged, leading me toward the master bedroom where cardboard boxes sat stacked. "No point waiting, the place needs updating to maximize market value. You're selling it? Of course it's oversized for one person, and the market's hot right now. My realtor thinks I can flip it for at least $320,000, maybe more with the right staging." I methodically sorted through boxes of my belongings while Jessica paced impatiently, checking her Apple Watch every few minutes. In one box, I found items she'd apparently deemed worthless. Ruth's reading glasses, her recipe collection written on index cards, the wool sweater she'd worn constantly during chemo treatments. "Can't you hurry this up?" Jessica finally snapped. "It's just stuff, Dad. You don't even have a real place to store it all." "I have a place," I said quietly, carefully wrapping Ruth's favorite coffee mug in newspaper. "And these aren't just possessions, Jessica. They're memories of your mother." She rolled her eyes. "Mom's gone, Dad. Holding on to her old things won't bring her back. You need to focus on practical matters now." When I finished selecting what mattered most, I found Jessica in what had been my home office, now stripped of the oak desk my grandfather had built by hand. In its place sat some modern glass and chrome contraption that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. "I'm finished," I announced. "Great. The staging company will handle everything else. They're donating what they don't use." She paused, studying me with the calculating look I'd seen her use in business situations. "Dad, I've been thinking. This transition might be easier if you considered some kind of assisted living arrangement. I've researched some nice facilities that specialize in helping seniors adjust to lifestyle changes." The words hit like ice water. "Assisted living? Jessica, I'm 64 years old and in perfect health. I know, but living alone at your age, especially after losing Mom. These places provide structure, social interaction, meal planning. It might be exactly what you need right now." "What I need," I said carefully, "is for my daughter to show some basic concern for my welfare instead of treating me like a problem to be managed." Something flickered in her expression, irritation, maybe guilt. "I'm concerned, Dad. That's why I'm suggesting professional help. You can't just wander around feeling sorry for yourself forever." After the movers Jessica had hired loaded my selected possessions into their truck, I stood on the front steps, taking one last look at the house where Ruth and I had spent our final years together. Jessica was already inside, directing the staging team with crisp efficiency. 3 weeks passed. I settled into a rhythm of exploring the cottage in Carmel that Ruth had prepared, meeting with financial advisors who helped me understand the investment portfolio, and spending time in the garage learning about the cars. George Coleman visited twice, teaching me basic maintenance procedures and sharing stories about Ruth's methodical approach to building the collection. I was enjoying morning coffee in the Carmel cottage garden when my phone rang with Jessica's number. Her voice sounded strained, lacking its usual confident tone. "Dad, I need to talk to you. There's been a complication." "What kind of complication?" "Financial. The house sale hit some snags, inspection issues, buyer financing problems, and my primary investment project failed. A tech startup I'd put significant money into just declared bankruptcy." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm facing some serious cash flow problems." I set down my coffee cup, watching morning fog drift across the Pacific. "I'm sorry to hear that, Jessica. I was wondering about that garage Mom left you. Maybe we could get it appraised. If there's any salvage value there, perhaps we could work out some kind of financial arrangement." 3 weeks of silence, and now she needed something. "I've already had it appraised, Jessica." A pause. "And the contents are worth approximately $12.30 million. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. $12 million, Dad? That's impossible. It's just an old garage with some rusty cars." "No, Jessica. It's 3 vintage automobiles in museum condition, plus a complete professional restoration facility. Your mother spent 5 years carefully acquiring assets while battling cancer, assets she left specifically to me after watching how you treated both of us." "I don't understand." "Mom never mentioned anything about valuable cars. Your mother was protecting her investment from exactly the attitude you're displaying right now. She knew you'd see them as assets to be liquidated rather than appreciating their true significance." Another long silence. When Jessica spoke again, her voice was small, uncertain. Dad, I think I made some mistakes with the house, with you, with how I handled Mom's death. I was so focused on moving forward that I didn't stop to think about what I was leaving behind. Yes, you did make mistakes. She flinched at my directness. I want to make it right, but I'm in real trouble financially. If I don't get help soon, I could lose everything. I studied the garden Ruth had planned but never seen, thinking about the letter she'd left explaining her hopes for Jessica's character development. Your mother left me instructions about sharing this inheritance with you, but only under certain conditions. What conditions? Complete financial transparency, professional counseling to understand how you got into this situation, and genuine effort to rebuild our relationship based on mutual respect, rather than your convenience. Jessica's voice was barely above a whisper. Those are fair terms, Dad. More than fair considering how I've treated you. There's one more thing. You'll spend time here in Carmel, learning to maintain these cars and understanding why your mother chose them. Not because they're worth money, but because they represent the best of human engineering and craftsmanship. 8 months later, Jessica and I work together in the garage every other weekend. She's learned to change oil, adjust carburetors, and appreciate the elegant engineering that makes each car special. She's working for a nonprofit now, making less money but finding more satisfaction in meaningful work. Last Sunday, she helped me start the Aston Martin for its monthly exercise run. As the inline-six engine settled into its distinctive idle, she looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years: genuine respect. Dad, I'm sorry it took almost losing everything for me to understand what really matters. I handed her the keys. Want to drive? Her face lit up like the little girl I remembered. Really? As we cruised the coastal highway, the Aston's engine purring with mechanical perfection, I thought about Ruth's remarkable plan. The garage that Jessica had mocked as worthless junk had become the foundation of our family's healing. Ruth's inheritance wasn't just about money. It was about giving us both the chance to discover what we were truly worth. And in the end, that turned out to be priceless. Sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what we receive, but discovering we had the strength to earn respect all along and the wisdom to know the difference between what's valuable and what's merely expensive. Ruth knew that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the relationships we rebuild and the values we pass down. And sometimes it takes losing everything we thought mattered to find what actually does.